Hi, in the second part of the lecture about bioimaging, we will be discussing about X-rays and CT scan. So in 1895, Wilhelm Röntgen discovered X-rays, which cost him, or rather, which allowed him to win the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1901. Now, X-rays are basically high-energy waves that the X-rays, he found out that the X-rays can pass through most solid objects. So this is a type of ionizing radiation. That means that it activates the electrons of the atoms that are exposed to it, such that they become more reactive, and it's quite dangerous actually to the human body because it may cause damage to your DNA, which may lead to cancer. However, it's quite ironic if you think about it, because we are using X-ray as a routine test for medical checkups, and even in medicine, we're using X-rays. The only difference is that, it's just that our body can recover from brief exposures to X-ray. However, if you expose yourself to continuous X-rays continuously, so of course you will develop mutations in your DNA. You will develop the damage in the DNA will build up, and of course it will lead to sickness or cancer. So that's why if you know, when you have X-rays, you need to it must have at least 6 months interval between two X-rays for it to be considered safe. Now, here is basically how X-rays are formed. So you have your X-ray source, and you focus that on your sample. So, and then the detector is behind you. So if you remember when you take chest X-rays during your physical exams, so you have your there's a detector actually. You are asked to stand at a certain point, and then there's a detector behind you. The detector is behind you. Okay, so unlike in a photographic image, the detector is on the camera, I mean in front of you. This time the detector is the one behind you. Now, why do we use X-ray if it's quite dangerous? It's an ionizing radiation. So why do we still use X-rays in our routine checkups in the medical field? So here we have two important properties of X-rays that is very useful in bioimaging. The first one is that the human body is translucent to X-rays of the correct wavelength. So that means you can view the interior of the body. That's why X-rays are used to view bones. If you have fractures, so it can easily be seen in the X-ray. Of course, you cannot do that in any other imaging techniques except for X-rays. Now we have the denser tissues. Here you will observe a greater absorption of X-rays. That's why the bones are seen as opaque white, because it's a quite dense tissue. So that means the rays are blocked, because the one that we see in the X-ray is actually the negative. So the white ones, those are unexposed, or the whiter shades, there is a less X-rays that pass through that tissue sample, for example. So that's the first reason. So we can view the interior structure without actually opening up the body. So the next reason is because X-rays have the fortuitous ability to expose photographic film, the same as the visible light. And that is very important, because that allows us to record the images, so that we can take the image and then just like taking snapshots or a picture. So you just take the image and then you can use that to study later. So you have a record of your internal body structure, and that's actually very important. Now this is the instrument layout of your X-ray. So this is how you form X-ray images. So you have silver halide particles in a film. These are the ones that in the detector. So they absorb the energy from the X-ray. So of course, different amount of X-rays that are absorbed, it will of course form different shades of color. So that's why the less absorption of the X-rays, you have a white, and then the greater absorptions, you have the darker shades. So the X-rays when it hits the silver halide in the detector, the silver halide becomes metallic silver, and that appears as the black. That's why the less dense, the part in the detector that is more exposed, that has the most X-rays that go through them, they are darker. So when you have denser tissues, the X-rays won't pass through, or will have a difficulty in passing through those tissues, and of course you will have a more whiter, more opaque images. So in here you have your X-ray tube. It passes through a filter. Why do we have the filter? The filter is for, of course, as you can see, a certain wavelength only. So it's the one that chooses the exact. Of course, the ones coming from the X-ray, this is a plethora of other types of other wavelengths, different types of light. So the filter is the one that filters out the X-rays of specific wavelength, and then passes through the collimator, and then to the patient, of course, the human body. And of course, you have your different body structure. So here, for example, this is the bone. So in here, it's dense. So the images that passes through here, there are less X-ray images that pass through. This is, for example, an organ. So it is of a different density than the rest of the body. So it, of course, will show a different shade. So based on how much X-ray passes through each part of the body in the interior structure, you will have your image. There will be different shades of grays in your image. So the X-rays, the normal X-ray, produces two-dimensional image. So of course you have a 2D image. So that's just a simple two-dimensional image. Now this is a projection of the X-ray. So a projection is a projection of a 3D object in a 2D plane. So you have your chest X-ray. So this is the clarity of the image relies on a good contrast between the denser bone tissues and the less dense softer tissues. That's why sometimes we use contrast agents to enhance the difference in density, such that the lines are more visible, so you have a clearer resolution, greater contrast or clarity in your image. So sometimes they inject barium solutions or even air. For example, in the chest X-rays, when they, if you remember how you take your X-rays, you are asked to inhale deep inhales. So that air, so when you inhale, that air will suffuse your lungs, and your lungs become, of course, less dense. So it will appear as a darker color, and then those denser tissues will appear as a bit lighter. So here you can see X-rays with emphysema bubbles. So from the chest cavity, the emphysema bubbles, there is little air in there, so it appears whiter shades. So you have several emphysema shades in the lungs part. Okay, so that is your X-ray image. Now, computer tomography is similar to X-ray. It's actually the level-up version of your X-ray. So in 1972, Godfrey Hansen is the one that developed the computed tomography, or the CT scan. So the CT scan arose from the mathematical method that was applied to X-ray imaging technique. That's why it's called computed tomography. So the idea is that you have several X-ray images taken at different angles, and then you superimpose, or you use those images to create a three-dimensional image or structure of your body. So that's why CT scan is a leveled up version, because unlike the X-rays, the normal 2D X-rays, it's just a projection. So you have a 2D image, but in a CT scan, you can view it three-dimensional. So yeah, in your activity with Slicer, you will view here your a three-dimensional image of the body taken using CT scan. So the three-dimensional image could be represented as two-dimensional cross-sections, which I showed you in the introduction video lecture, and it can also be used in a computer, so you can do 3D slices. So it is used to reveal relationships of the tissues within the bodies instead of simple projections of shadows or densities. So as I said, it's a level up version. So the CT scan images, they provide a more detailed view inside the body. So how detailed is that? So here is an example of a CT scan of your head. So unlike the normal X-rays, which is just a two-dimensional image that is whereas all of the structures are just piled one upon another, you have here a slice. So you can see the part of your body in a form of a slice. So this is a X-ray computed tomography slice, cross-sectional view of the human brain. So how do they do that? So of course you have your X-rays. So you have your X-rays. So this is your X-ray source, and the beam of light is projected upon several detectors. So as you can see, the detectors are arranged in such a way that they produces different angles. So you have different angles. The view is from different angles. And then the computer is the one, that's why it's called computer tomography. So you have a computer that resolves those images, and then they will recreate from those 2D projections from the different angles. They will recreate a three-dimensional view of your body. So that's the CT scan. Here's a visualization of a 3D structure showing your carotid arteries in the neck part. So this is from a computed tomography scan. So this is the projection is especially the structural projection is from your CT scan. So here they highlighted the carotid artery, the main artery that supplies blood to your brain. So this is the view of the neck. So as you can see in the background, you have the vertebra, the structure of the vertebra in your neck, and then you have your hyoid bone, the floating one. Let me show you where's the. Okay, so you have the hyoid bone. It's floating on your the neck region. Basically, helps you with your speech. So, and then this is the vertebra. So as you can see, the minute. So it's quite a level up. So I told you it's a level up of your X-ray, because you can see now the very minute details in the vertebral column. And of course, you have the softer tissues. This is the carotid artery. So you have the softer tissues, you can see there. So you have that structure. So that's for X-rays and CT scans. So in the next video, we will be discussing about ultrasound imaging and ultrasound imaging.